Today's video, we're going to get into the right mindset to plan our room effectively. It's basically 3 simple steps. Step 1, we're going to ask ourselves some questions. Step 2, we're going to make a list of requirements. And step 3, we're going to make a list of the bare essentials. Let's get started with step 1. For me, getting in the right mindset is all about thinking about the outcome that you want. So you're spending your time effectively. I'm going to ask myself some straightforward questions. What am I going to be using the room for? When am I going to be using the room? Who else is going to be using the room? And what budget do I have to put the room together? In my case, I'm going to be using the room for making some YouTube videos, doing my mixing work for my clients, doing my online tuition work for my clients, and then a bit of like office work, video editing, that kind of stuff. I'm going to be using the room basically all day, every day, right? A minimum of like 35 to 40 hours a week. I'm not going to be sharing the room with anyone. It's so small in here. There's just room for me. And in terms of budget, I don't really have one for this room. I'm opening a studio in a few months, and this is a stopgap. So like a lot of people setting up their own home studio, they need to make do with what they've got. You need to make do with what you've got. And that's what we're going to be using to set this room up. I guess it's worth noting, before you go away and do this yourself, it can be really hard to maintain perspective sometimes. But if you're really, really honest with yourself, you'll save yourself a lot of time. Just be really pragmatic and just try and zoom out. So now we can move on to step 2. And this is all about purpose. Now I know what I'm going to be using the room for, and I've got all those details, I can make a list of priorities. So for me, the number 1 priority is that it's functional for different jobs, right? Because I'm going to be doing mixing, a little bit of production work, tuition, and making videos, all of that. I need it to be able to fit all of those things in and still be comfortable. The other thing is I'm doing a minimum of 35 hours a week, and I need it to be comfortable. I need to be able to spend that much time in here. If it's oppressive and if there's no vibe, I'm going to avoid coming in here, and I'm not going to do my work, basically. It only needs room for 1 person. And that's actually quite an important distinction, because if I needed 2 people in here, I'd have to make a sacrifice on something else, like less lighting or smaller speakers or a smaller desk. Do you know what I mean? Less acoustic treatment, that kind of thing. And as I've decided I'm not going to spend any money on this, I've got to make do with what I've got. 0 spendies, 0 budget. And that's quite handy for this video series, because I think for a lot of people who are making music at home, they've bought their laptop, they've bought their instrument, they've bought their interface, and that's really it. You know, they don't have an infinite budget to spend on this stuff. And lastly, one really important priority, even though it's last in the list, is essentials only. Big part of the mindset, right? It's a small room for me here. It's like 2 meters by 2 meters. It's basically a cube. There's only room for the essentials. So step 3, super simple, essentials only. Let's list the essentials. What do I actually need? What do you actually need in this room? And nothing else. As an example, when I was putting this room together, at first anyway, I had my big comfy office chair in here. And every time I had to move a speaker or put something under the desk or bring another panel in or put a light up, it was actually a nightmare. So now I am using this handy little foldable chair, but every time I come in and out of the room or anything I need to do, I can just fold it up, move it out of the way. And actually that makes my life a lot better. I've got a cushion for the long hours. Don't worry, it's okay. So yeah, anyway, let's just list these essentials, right? So for me, I'm going to look at my list now. A computer, obviously, a chair, covered that. Desk, audio interface, headphones before speakers. I spend a lot of time on my headphones, then speakers, acoustic treatment, because the speakers, if you're going to have the speakers, you probably want some acoustic treatment. My YouTube gear, which is like the camera, a light, another light so that there's some light in the background, because you have to do that when you do YouTube, obviously. My guitar, ring-a-ding-a-ding. Even if I'm just doing mixing work, I find like figuring things out in the song really, really nice, a really nice way to connect with the tune. And it's good when I'm listening through if I kind of know where things are. So yeah. And my last priority, but if I can have it, I want it, is my ultra wide monitor. It makes my life when I'm mixing so much easier if I can see the whole session and I can just fly around. Just makes it better. So I guess it might be useful to sort of cover things that aren't in this room, because that'll give you an idea of where my priorities are, and they're not going to be the same as yours. But so we've got my large production desk. I've got a big production desk with loads of room for my outboard. It's awesome. I love it. I miss it, but it's just not going to work in this room. All my outboard, because I've got nowhere to put it. My second and third pairs of speakers. So I've got some hi-fi speakers and a Bluetooth monitor, another set of hi-fi speakers, and a lot of pairs of headphones. There's just no room for them in here, so they're not here. My weighted keyboard, it's mostly for when other people come, so I don't really need it in the room. I'm not a pianist. Sometimes I use it to plink some chords in, but it's really nice, full size, weighted keys, not essential in this room. My second and third guitar, I've got an acoustic and I've got another electric. I just need one in here. If I was gonna all of a sudden be recording an album with someone and I needed two guitars, maybe I could swap something around for that, but it can be in its box. It can be under my bed. It doesn't need to be in here. One thing that I'm really missing, and I'm going to have to bring some in, is all my plants. I just love having plants in the room. So I've got a lot of big plants that are full height and need to be on the floor. No room for those, but I should bring in my little pot plants, really. No art on the walls. I've got nothing other than panels on the wall. So like, that's not great. I wish I could have some art, but all the surfaces are so close and super reflective. I don't really want to be putting things like that up if I can avoid it. You know, it is a mixed room first and foremost. And for my YouTube rig and my old videos, you'd have noticed there was more light in the background and there was, you know, it was better lit basically. I've got other lights that I'm not putting up, and whatever, priorities, innit? And last but not least, my nice comfy office chair. So make a list of the things that you actually use when you're making your music. If it's a full weighted keyboard, then that's your thing. You've got to fit it in and really just try and prioritize them. That way it's easy for when you're setting up. You can just be like, no, I don't need all of this faff. You'll really thank yourself later when you're working in a nice, like calm, comfortable environment. It isn't just stuff everywhere all the time. So now you know your essentials. How are you going to make the room nice to be in? Do you need daylight? Do you need nice LED lights? Do you need like a lovely old lamp from a farm, or plants? Do you need loads of plants? All these things are going to make the space really, really nice and comfortable. The last thing you need to do is accidentally make some kind of like weird doom box that you never want to get in. The next video is going to be all about speaker setups. You get nice stereo imaging, so like and subscribe to get that. I run free online and in-person events for home producers, for people to get feedback on their mixes, meet people to collaborate with, and all that kind of thing. If that sounds like something you're interested in, hit the link in the description. It'll take you through to the website where you can sign on to one. And there's also a load of free mixing templates and stuff like that there too. All the best.